Hey there guys, welcome to a brand new unboxing video. I'm your host Frank Ireland, and in this video we're going to be reviewing and unboxing this Universal Studios Monsters Legacy Series 2 that has Dracula, Frankenstein, and the Bride of Frankenstein. So let's get started.
I want my
TV!
It's my TV!
And I want it now!
Too much is never enough.
Before we unbox this toy and, review it and talk about it, I want to give a little bit of a backstory about my channel and the toys. Usually whenever I work on a project, I try to find something that best represents that project. Recently, in October, I worked on this cool fan-made trailer, Dark Universe.
Now, Van Helsing will face an enemy that never dies.
I've been waiting for you.
To best represent that project, I wanted to get something really cool, so I started doing minor research on these kind of figures. These are from Diamond Select. It comes with Dracula, Frankenstein's monster, and the Bride of Frankenstein. This is a limited edition, $3.95 out of 2012. I'm not sure why there was a limited edition, because there's Legacy Series 1 and 3. Those are not limited edition. Not sure why. I'm going to take a shot in the dark and say, in 2012, the 8 original Universal Monster movies were released on Blu-ray for the first time ever. So I'm guessing the reason why there was, limited edition, But the difference between these ones and the main line is that these ones are in black and white. And the main line, when they're sold separately, they all come with different accessories. Dracula comes with a wolf. Frankenstein, I think he's pretty much normal. Maybe I think he comes with the bed or table. And then Bride of Frankenstein, I think she's basically the same but in color. As you can see here, the box is purple and there's some lightning on here, and it has the logo that says Universal Studios, home of the original monsters, which I think that's really cool. It's on the sides here, and it's got the Legacy series. And on the back here, you got a picture of Dracula, Bride of Frankenstein, and Frankenstein's monster, the logo here. And of course, there's a little title crawl here that explains the toy line. Between 1923 and 1958, Universal Studios released over 60 different monster movies, all in black and white, introducing the world to some of the most iconic screen creations of all time. In honor of that legacy, this set presents 3 of the most famous Universal monsters in their original black and white appearances. It's really fun. They all have their different logos: Frankenstein, Bride of Frankenstein, and Dracula. I'm a huge fan of this box because it actually has the plastic thing on top, so you can actually put a light above these figures to make it look good. But the thing that makes that bad is because right in the background here, I don't know if you can see it, but right there is the little instruction booklet that has all the Diamond Select toys, so right in the background. So if you're going to display these figures, I would recommend removing that booklet in the back here if you're going to have a light above it, because that totally ruins the aesthetic of these figures. Because I think this box is really well done. It's really cool, and I really love that plastic thing above it, because I know why it's there now. It's to have a light above it to, light up these figures if you want to display it in the box. But I don't want to do that with these figures. No, 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 no. So I'm going to open it right now. So a little bit of a backstory as I open the box. The year is 1923. Universal starts the monster universe with The Hunchback of Notre Dame, starring Lon Chaney as Quasimodo. Dracula is released on February 12, 1931, and becomes a box office success. It sells 50,000 tickets within 48 hours, earning $700,000, becoming one of the biggest films of 1931. In November, lightning strikes twice. Frankenstein becomes a box office success. By 1932, Frankenstein had earned $1.4 million. In 1935, Frankenstein gets a sequel,
The Bride of Frankenstein.
The classic Universal horror era ends in 1948 with Abbott and Costello meets Frankenstein. In the mid-1950s, Universal Studios re-releases many of its old monster movies. Children reportedly lined up to see the original Frankenstein, Dracula, and Wolfman. In the late 1950s, Universal syndicated a package of its classic monster movies to local television stations across the country. Television horror hosts such as Vampira helped make these films a weekly viewing habit for millions of young people. Warren Publishing introduces Famous Monsters of Filmland in 1958. The 1960s would bring the first wave of Monster Mania.
It caught on in a flash.
Aurora Plastics Corporation takes the first step by producing its first monster model kit, Frankenstein. The incredible success of Aurora monster models opened the gates of a tidal wave of monster merchandise that flooded the 1960s. In 1973, the first true monster action figures emerged. Mego and AHI released 8-inch monster figures. The following year saw the release of the Lincoln Monsters. The success of Star Wars in 1977 brought the end to the competition. Kids wanted science fiction, spaceships, and lasers. the great age of monsters was coming to an end.
How does it feel?
Remco releases 2 series of monster toys, 6 9-inch figures and 6 3-inch scale figures. Both lines had Dracula, Frankenstein, Phantom, Creature, Wolfman, and the Mummy. The 3-inch line had a monster play case and a mini monster monsterizer that helped the glow-in-the-dark figures glow. 1986 sees the release of 4 lackluster Imperial monster toys. By the mid-1980s, old monsters had become passé, and the new monsters were too violent and controversial for merchandisers to touch.
Hey, Fred! Thought you were dead! Put your face on, Jason!
Yeah, well, they canceled it.
In 1991, Playco releases a series of Universal monster toys. The set included Frankenstein, Dracula, Wolfman, and the Mummy. Playco planned to produce a Creature from the Black Lagoon and Bride of Frankenstein if the series sold well. They did not. In the 90s, the Universal monster license seemed to be dead. But in 1997...
It's alive! It's alive! It's alive! It's alive!
Universal monsters were everywhere. Hasbro and a new company named Sideshow Toy released sets of dolls and action figures. Series 1 included Frankenstein's monster, the Mummy, and the Wolfman. Each figure had a detailed Aurora-style base and came in a green and purple bubble card. They were released at mainstream retailers such as Walmart, Toys R Us, Target, and KB Toys. Series 2, 3, and 4 followed with characters such as the Creature from the Black Lagoon and the Bride of Frankenstein. The first 2 series were also available as silver screen editions that were sold exclusively at Toys R Us. Silver screen editions of lines 3 and 4 were only available from the Sideshow website. A set of 3 was available at FAO Schwartz. Sideshow Toys also made a series of Little Big Heads. They were 2-inch tall figures that shared the likeness of the monsters. The Little Big Head line expanded to shredders and wrestlers to bank off the skateboarding and wrestling craze of the late 90s. Sideshow Toys made various figures until 2001. In 2003, Jakks Pacific released 3 diorama packs. In 2007, Toy Island releases 5 Universal monster figures. At the Toy Fair in 2010, Diamond Select announces that they acquired the Universal toy license. During the 4th quarter of every year, they would release a mini-mate set, Mego-style figures, highly detailed action figures, and other Universal monster collectibles, until 2016 when they lost the license. Here we are with these 3 awesome Diamond Select action figures of the Universal monsters. We have Dracula, we have the Bride of Frankenstein, and we have Frankenstein's monster. I'm so excited to finally have my hands on these toys. But before we get too far, I would like to thank these 3 websites. I would like to thank the Gallery of MonsterToys.com, FigureRealm.com, and UniversalMonsterArmy.com. Without those 3 fan sites, I would have never found out all this information. Diamond Select made so many toys and so many waves and so many variants. It's very confusing, and I'd like to thank those websites to actually breaking it down and saying, okay, this is wave 1, this is wave 2, and this is wave 3. I think that's really great. I would like to thank those 3 websites, and I'll include them down in the description box. But I've always loved Universal Monsters, even when I was a kid. Before I even seen the movies, I was a fan of Universal Monsters. When I was younger, I would go to the library and sign out those Crestwood monster books. I don't know if you remember them. They were like bright orange and black and white. I actually owned one. I owned the Blob. And there was this little old paperback chapter book I had called Super Monsters. And I would go through that book and just flip through all the pictures of the monsters and stuff like that. So I really love this stuff. I even have one of these books here too. I have Monster Mania. They have all these cool monster pictures in here that I grew up with. I really love these monsters. I'm so stoked to finally, have these toys and figures because I love them. I even have these Burger King monster toys that I grew up with. I think this was one of my first Universal monster experiences when I was younger. I had the Frankenstein, definitely. I never had Dracula. I got Dracula years later, but Creature from the Black Lagoon, which I have here, he's fantastic. He squirts water. I don't know if he still does it, but Burger King made these toys and I loved them. So, let's get started.
So if any of you feel that you do not care to subject your nerves to such a strain, now is your chance to, well, we've warned you.
So the first one we have here is Dracula!
I am Dracula.
The thing with this Dracula is they don't have the likeness rights to Bela Lugosi, so it doesn't look like him at all. His likeness rights are really expensive, so a lot of toy companies don't have that. Later this year in 2019, I think there's going to be a Bela Lugosi Mego figure. I was like, holy shit, they really paid a lot for his likeness because there really hasn't been a likeness to Bela Lugosi in a long time. They had 2 head sculpts for this one. They had one that's just normal and this one with the scary face. I wasn't really into the scary face, but I wanted to have all 3 of the figures. As you can see here, his hands do rotate. His arms go up to the side that far. They go forward, they go back. It's pretty simple, pretty straightforward, and his hand does rotate. And this one doesn't rotate. It's pretty steady, and I don't want to break it, so there's that. His arm goes this way, about that far, forward and back. The cape is removable, and no movement. And like the legs, it's pretty much just a statue. It's pretty much like those old Aurora models from the 60s where you just put them on the base, but the base isn't that great. The pegs are too wide for his feet, and his feet are not level. Like, as you can see here, he kind of rocks, so it's very difficult for him to stand. So I actually had to find one of my bases I'm not using for my wrestling toys. As you can see, this is Goldberg, so I've been using that for him to stand, because this base is not doing well, because he'll either fall forward off the shelf or fall backward, and it doesn't look good. So I'm not a huge fan of this base right here. I'm being generous. I'm going to give it 3 out of 5, because there's not really much you can do with this figure. I think he could all do is like point like, oh, I'm going to suck your blood, but that's it. I wish he came with the alternate head in this box set, but this box set already came with 3 figures and 3 different bases. They did enough for this set, so I'm not really going to complain about that. If I wanted the headset and stuff like that, I would probably buy the figure separately. But let's go to the next figure. This is
The Bride of Frankenstein.
She comes with a base here. It's a concrete base. It has like blocks and stuff. It has 1 foot peg, because she has 1 foot peg on her feet. Look like she's walking, as you can see here. She has like a step forward, and there's only 1 peg and 1 peg on the bottom. This one's much better, because not only does the foot peg help her, but the plastic rubber molding of her dress helps her stand. The dress is not removable. It's not like the Sideshow collectible, which we'll do a comparison later in this video. But this one's pretty much solid plastic. But the problems I've had with this one is that the arm falls off. It's just pretty much just, it's not really like staying in there. There's like a little like detail in there, like it's supposed to get like stay in there, but it's not really staying. So I got to be careful with this one. But I do like the arm poses that you could do, because it looks like she's reaching out for you. It looks like, oh no, she's coming at you, which is really great. That's what I want in an action figure like this. If it's just going to stand and just like be on your shelf, that's perfect. The likeness is not that great. The likeness looks like Gina Davis.
Oh, honey, you got it.
It kind of makes me wish that there was a Bride of Frankenstein movie with Gina Davis, because it just looks awesome. But it has to lose points for that, because on the bottom of the box it says likeness rights to Elsa Lancaster, and I was like, nope, it doesn't look like her. So we have wrists that move. It's just straight up and down movement for the arms, and you just got to be careful. I'm not sure if all the action figures are like that, just mine is. So it's like, oh, Buzz, can you give me a hand? That's great, Buzz, but this is serious. So there's that. I like her base a lot. Let's go to the base. We have, see, like the concrete blocks and the chains here. These are like real little chains, and you just stick them to these little pegs in the bottom. So that's really great. I'd give this figure another 3, because likeness isn't there, but the feeling and emotion that you want for this monster on your shelf is there. So if you want her to look like that, that is fantastic. And last, but certainly not least, is Frankenstein. Hang on, let's move you back. So it's Frankenstein's monster. As you can see here, it's pretty straightforward. He doesn't move his legs. He's pretty much just a solid piece of plastic. There is no foot peg on his base, so this base is pretty much useless. It's just there for show, like you just put him on there, but there's no like peg, so he'll be like, oh, falls off your shelf. So I'm not going to use this. Again, I'm going to use one of my extra bases, like here. This one is the Ric Flair for the retro figures, so I usually just put him on there, because he does have foot pegs, so just plop it on there and he won't fall over. His wrists do move, and his arms pretty much go forward and back. As you can, I don't know if you can hear it in the video, but it's pretty much like solid plastic. His head movement is pretty good. There's like no waist movement or anything like that. The likeness is okay. It looks enough like Boris Karloff to be like, yes, that's the Boris Karloff Frankenstein. Fun fact for you guys, it was Bela Lugosi that came up with the walking like this for Frankenstein. It was not Boris Karloff.
For one who has not lived even a single lifetime, you are a wise man.
I would give that Frankenstein a 4, because the likeness is there, the detail is there, but his posability and stuff is like a point off. Honestly, I'm happy with all 3 of these figures. I think they look really great. I would definitely recommend them if you like Universal Monster toys. Before we end this review, I'd like to end with a little special treat. A little comparison. A comparison between the Sideshow Collectible and the Diamond Select. As you can see here, there is a big difference between height. I believe the Sideshow Collectible toys are about 8 inches tall. The Diamond Select are about the normal 6 inches tall. The base here says The Bride of Frankenstein. It has the actress' name, Elsa Lanchester, 1935. The date of the movie came out. They strived for likeness. As you can see here, this looks like the actress, Elsa Lanchester. The arms move up and down. There's wrist rotation on both hands. One has rags, the other one does not. And there is an elbow joint. Also, the dress is cloth, so it can be removed because you could recreate her in her rags when she first wakes up with this alternate head. So, like, the head pops off, and you could plop that on. Hopefully. It's the first time I've done it. There we go. And you can have her with her bandage head. And she does have a knee joint, but it's not much to write home about. It just looks like, They tried, and she does have rotation that goes like that, so she could sit like this on your shelf if you want her to sit for some reason. I don't know why, but there's that. And she has one hole for a foot peg, and it's on her base, which is great. And she could stand flat on her base, and it's wonderful. It works out. She won't fall forward or anything. And just to compare, right here, we have the rubber dress. Likeness looks like Gina Davis, and the arms. I personally like these arms a lot more just because it looks like, ooh, I'm coming to get you. It's so cool. This one is just more like stagnant, like arms to the side and, more of the classic pose from the movie where she's just standing there looking around with her bird-like movements. Let's get that back on there. Perfect. So there's that. So if I had to recommend one, I would probably have to say for likeness and the detail, go with the Sideshow Collectible. This one is the Screen Classics version. There is a color version out there where she has like paler skin. There's a little bit more cream tone to the rags and stuff. But yeah, I would definitely go with that if you want likeness, if that's important to you. But if you want to look good on your shelf, I would definitely go with the Diamond Select because I feel like she's pretty. She looks like Gina Davis, and I like the hand pose. The hand pose is what makes it. So this has been today's episode. Hopefully you liked it. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Hopefully you learned something out of this. I certainly did. I think it's so cool that these monsters have lasted so long and lasted from generation to generation. And definitely after this review, I'll be opening up these Burger King monster toys. I had these when I was younger, but they're all banged up and missing pieces. But I'm so happy to have these mint in the bag. So definitely after the review, I'll be opening these toys. And I know what you guys are probably saying. You're probably saying, Frank, you forgot to mention the Funko Pops and the Super 7 toys. Yes, I'm well aware of those toys, but I really wanted to focus on the Diamond Select figures and the Sideshow Collectible figures for this review and the overall history of the toys. But yes, I'm well aware of the Super 7 toys and the Funko Pops, which are really great too. With that being said, leave a comment down below. Tell me what you guys think. Subscribe if you're not already subscribed. And be sure to follow my new Instagram, I Want My TV Now. I really want to thank you guys for watching, and have a great day, everybody.